Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. Not the best start of the week for a Lazio fan. Monday wasn't really great, but we are always here, hoping to cheer all our Lazio fan all over the world up a little bit. With this podcast, we are going to review, unfortunately, Lazio-Inter. Unfortunately for me, I'm not alone because we have that guy, the Scottish guy from Rome. I never remember his name. Alistair, something like that. Hello, Alistair. How are you?
Wonderful introduction once again. Thanks very much. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, we are really pleased to have you. I don't know if you know this. And joining us again, Rami Algendi. Hello, Rami. How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm glad to be back. Not the best of circumstances, but hopefully you'll feel better tonight.
Before we start seriously talking about the match, Alistair, how do you feel you brought the Scottish weather to Rome this weekend?
To be honest, I mean, this is probably worse than Scott has it. That's not entirely true. I've just been speaking to my dad before I came on, and apparently there's been snow back in the Highlands. So, yeah, it's the whole weather thing. I thought has been a bit overblown. I mean, around where I'm staying, it's not been that bad. It's quite windy and there's a little bit of rain, but really not too serious until the actual match had started. But yeah, elsewhere in the city it has been worse, and trees have been coming down, vases and various objects have been flying off balconies, and I think a few people have been injured. So it's not been fantastic weather, to be honest, but I just wish they'd made a decision about it a bit sooner than they did.
Yeah, I mean, how silly it is that they said to every people from Rome to not leave the house if not a very important matter. And in the meantime, they played Lazio-Inter. How a fan! I had a lot of friends from Rome that didn't go to the stadium because said it was too dangerous for them to get out. A big cheers to all the Lazio fans, because I expected the stadium to be pretty much empty. Instead, the Curva Nord was packed. There was a lot of fans that ignore what the police said and went to the stadium. But really,
yeah,
it was really silly.
Yeah, it was. I was quite impressed by that as well. I mean, a lot of Inter fans. The Inter end was completely full. I suppose most of them might have already come down the day before, or also be based in Rome. But the Distinti Sud was pretty full. Good number of Lazio fans in there, which is very only really opened for the big games. But yeah, I think it was a bit of a shame because it's not often that Lazio break the 40,000 mark, unfortunately, when it comes to attendances, and this was one of the games where that was supposed to happen. I don't think they quite got there in terms of the amount of people who turned up. But it's crazy. They had this meeting set for 2:00 in the afternoon, and it wasn't until 5:00 that we got the green light that it was definitely going ahead. And what are they doing for 3 hours? Like you say, in the meantime, the city council have basically gone and said, don't go outdoors, and yeah, it's all a bit crazy. And obviously, a lot of Lazio fans live in the region of Lazio and need to travel to the stadium from afar as well, and would have had to make the decision to go or not before they actually knew if it was going ahead. So, no, not the ideal build up to the match, and as I'm sure we'll get onto, not the ideal match itself either.
No, absolutely. Unfortunately, it's in a certain way, it's a strange match because I don't know if you agree with me, but before Inter scored, I thought Lazio was playing well. The first goal of Inter, as I told you this morning, Alistair, it was a little bit weird because the ball bounced a couple of times and arrived to Icardi that was all alone in front of the goalkeeper. They were a little bit lucky. But after that, Lazio pretty give up, stop playing. Before, Ciro Immobile had a couple of very good chances. I don't know, Alistair, do you agree with me?
Yeah, it was a very finely balanced game up until the first goal went in, and it was an exciting watch. There was chances at both ends, but nobody was quite completely opening up the other team. And yeah, it was poised to be another great classic Lazio-Inter game up until that point. But this is one of the most worrying things for me. We're going to talk a lot about this problem in the big games, was the fact that once the first goal went in, the heads went down, and Lazio, between that first goal and half-time, which incidentally was when the weather got really, really bad, and that 15-minute spell was when the skies really opened and it got very wet. But Lazio did not respond to that goal well at all, and it was pretty clear, even before the second goal went in, that they weren't going to win that game. They just didn't seem mentally like they were capable of recovering from it.
Rami, you're always very critical. What's your point of view on this?
Well, Alistair probably said everything I was going to say, but yeah, it was a strange situation with the timing of the game. Is it on? Is it off? Would that have affected the players mentally? I don't know. But like Alistair said, the first goal ended the game. I think the players didn't respond well to it. They looked like they didn't want to play. There was no creativity at all. I don't want to put my fingers on players, but the only player that started that game that could help create something was Milinkovic-Savic, because Caicedo and Immobile can't create chances, and Milinkovic was not good today or yesterday. So I don't know. It was a strange situation. Watching the game I had a feeling that we're not going to score. I had a feeling we're not going to win.
Well, if Alistair said everything, thank you, Rami, for joining us, and we're going to talk next time. No, seriously. It's good that we had 24 hours to think about this match, because we said, and I said it often, that maybe it's a mentality issue. But, yesterday I was thinking, usually these big matches are the star of the team that wins it, that decide Brozovic, Icardi, and so on. Lazio stars didn't play very well. Milinkovic-Savic was a ghost yesterday. I don't know. Inzaghi said he played really well. I'm really concerned about these quotes, because I thought he was pretty much invisible. Same thing, Ciro Immobile. He was really, really nervous. I don't know why, from the beginning of the match. And the other star Lazio had was Luis Alberto, who didn't play. I think the reason why Lazio is struggling in this match is because the players that can make a difference are not making it at this moment. Rami?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the only player who was on the pitch that could create a chance, that could have a shot from far, was Milinkovic-Savic, and he's not playing well. This is probably the worst game he played the whole season. So, which is very strange, because we had a very good performance against Marseille. So I thought the players would be coming into this game with feeling good, confident, wanting to win, hungry to win, but we didn't see that at all.
I actually disagree a bit about the Milinkovic bashing on this occasion. I don't think it was his best game, but I think he did actually start the game pretty well. And you're talking about having a player on the pitch who could create chances. Well, it was him who was sent Immobile in behind the defence twice with really good through balls from deep positions. He actually, having a look at the statistics of the game after the game, he ran more distance than any other Lazio player on the pitch last night, and that's sharing a pitch with Marco Parolo, who almost always takes that prize. So I don't think you can fault his effort. He's definitely lacking in confidence, and I think he was particularly guilty of letting his head go down once the first goal went in. But I think up until that point, he was actually looking like his old self a little bit. In the opening half an hour, I thought he was actually looking like he could go on to have a really good game. So I disagree that it's his worst performance of the season, but I think he was as guilty as anyone of letting things slip. But I was really encouraged to see those statistics about how much distance he's covering. But one final thing on him that really frustrated me was that he was being pushed up into almost a trequartista position quite often in this game, to kind of go and in the hole behind Immobile Caicedo. When Inter were taking their goal kicks, there was always three of them pressing high up the pitch, and he was kind of the third striker in that situation. But sometimes he's just not working hard enough. And despite the distance he covered, there was one moment where in the first half he lost the ball high up the pitch, and then he kind of complained Inter were going on the counter-attack, and instead of getting up and getting back in position, he sulked, and then he stood up and he started kind of walking back, looking a bit sultry about things. I think Milan Badel won it back in midfield and launched a counter-attack again for Lazio, but he was so slow in getting back that he was offside, and they completely ruined it, what would have been a 3-on-3 position. So he needs to cut that out of his game. He's not playing well enough to be able to sulk like that.
This is the last time you're joining the podcast, by the way. But apart this, yeah, it's not enough playing 20 minutes out of 90. I thought, as pretty much all Lazio players started really well, but after the goal, he disappeared. And the thing that drives me nuts is second half of the match, we're already down 3-0. You have two chances to put the ball in the box from the left side, if I'm not wrong. And instead of crossing easily the ball, he tried to cross it with the external side of the foot and send it directly on Curva Nord. Now, we are down 3-0. You're playing rubbish. Do the simple thing. There were two Lazio players alone in the box, and you just have to serve the ball. I don't care if you do it with a back heel or something. Put it on the head. I don't care if it's, if you have to do a nice thing. Put it there. Then, when we score, when we're up again, you can do the complicated things. But he's trying to be too cute, and it's not the situation. The other thing is, I don't have the stats in front of me. That's more your type of thing, Alasdair. But I'm pretty sure he's one of the players that played more this season with Strakosha and Acerbi. But I think he's the one that deserves less as he's performing. I can understand he needs the confidence, but I think Inzaghi has to send a message, not only to him, but to the whole team. Like he benched Luis Alberto, he needs to bench even Milinkovic Savic and give the other guys a chance.
Yeah, I think it's got to that point. It probably got to that point before now. I think Berisha's done enough, to merit a starting place. And for me, I'd like to see Berisha get a shot in the team ahead of Milinkovic Savic at this point. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's not enough to play 30 minutes at a good level and not play the rest of the game. My point wasn't that he had a spectacularly good match. It was that it wasn't his worst of the season. So those are two different arguments.
Okay, you're back in the show next Monday. Don't worry. No, but the other thing that I want to talk to you and hear your opinion is when Badel gets injured and he gets subs, Cataldi gets in instead of Berisha. Now, my idea is Cataldi came in because Berisha is still injured. He's not fit. Inzaghi said when he made the third substitution, I could have Berisha could have come in, but he's fit, but I prefer another solution, etc. For me, and tell me if I'm wrong, if Berisha is fit when Badel gets injured, Cataldi doesn't get in. It's Berisha all the time. So, do you agree with me, or you thought that Cataldi deserved to play, and it's not related to the injury?
I think the question should be, why did Badel even start the game? It's obvious that he wasn't fully fit. It's obvious that he was still injured. So why did you pick him in the first place? You could have played Parolo in his place and played Berisha and Milinkovic Savic, or you could even play Lulic in midfield and play Cáceres as a left winger or Lukaku. Why did Padel start? That's the question. And yeah, when Padel got injured, I thought that he would play Berisha. I didn't think Cataldi would have played. I don't know why he played him.
I think I was a bit surprised to see Cataldi come on because lately Marco Parolo has been the one shifted into that regista role when it's been free. But it's a sign of faith for Cataldi, and I think he had a decent enough game, Cataldi, considering how little football he's played this season. I thought he did a decent job, and he looked more motivated than the rest of the guys on the pitch, at least. Which isn't saying much.
No, but don't get me wrong, Alistair. I was happy to see Cataldi, and I agree with you. I thought he played well, and this is something very positive. You can see on the pitch when a Lazio fan is playing, because Cataldi was running all around. He was everywhere. He didn't play bad. He created some chances. But my thing is, if Berisha is not injured, he comes in instead of Cataldi. Right?
What, to then push Parolo back into the regista position?
But
you mean?
I think Berisha can play there as well. But my point is, why saying that he's not fit? That he's fit when he's not good enough to play yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and Rami also made a good point, as in, why is Badel playing if he's not fit enough? I feel a bit sorry for Badel, because the chances he's had this season haven't come when he's been fit. I mean, he started that first game of the season against Napoli, another high-profile game when he wasn't fully fit, but we didn't really have any other options, or at least Inzaghi wasn't willing to try any other options. And now this game, he's not started a match for a month. He's had his injury problems. And when he has actually been in fitness, he's been behind Lucas and has barely played. So I do feel a bit sorry for him, because he's not played well for Lazio yet. And I think he's a quality player, but he's not shown his best. And we're about to enter November. And the reason for that really has just been the timing of his inclusion is bad. But it's a bit worrying, it was always going to be a very physical game, because that's the game that Inter prefer to play, and particularly in these bad weather conditions, which weren't a surprise to anyone. We were told the day before the game that all the schools here would be closed, so it wasn't a surprise that the bad weather was going to play a part. So to put him in when he's, like Rami said, clearly not fully fit, does seem like running a bit of a risk, and it's a risk that clearly wasn't worth paying off, because now it looks like we've lost him for a few weeks to injury. Lucas is also going to be out for a few weeks. And we're left in this position where we just don't really have a natural person to step in there.
I think that Inzaghi was, in a certain way, a little bit desperate, because he knows that Inter is really physical, and that was a typical Lucas Leiva match, because he's very physical, etc. Without him, he felt he needed badly to play Badel to avoid to help him there. But as you said, Badel wasn't fit and he struggled. I mean, when he came out, he already made a couple of mistakes. He wasn't brilliant as last year with Fiorentina, so that was a problem. But this leads me to another focal point that I wanted to talk to you. We are end of October. The season started like 3 months ago, and Lazio has already Leiva injured till I think it's 3 weeks. Badel injured probably the same time. Lukaku still didn't play a minute. Durmizi is out. Then we have Luis Alberto's situation that is not clear. It looks like he has some injury, but he was on the bench, but he didn't come in. Berisha as well. He came in, then didn't play Tuesday. Then today, Monday was on the bench, but didn't come in. But Inzaghi said he couldn't come in, but we all feel he's not fit. Casares, that played Thursday, but Inzaghi said he was too tired to play today. Immobile as well. He said he had fatigue. It's only 3 months Lazio have started the season, and already Lazio has like 9 key players injured, while Inter yesterday didn't have a single player out. Now,
Nainggolan?
Well, he's the only one. But, I mean, you have 9 players, and some of them, like Ciro Immobile, had to play. It's worrying. Or I'm the only one concerned about that.
I'm not really worried because, like you said, Lukaku hasn't had an injury before even the season started, so it wasn't in the season, as well as Berisha. The problem that I don't understand is the Luis Alberto. Uh, if they have to fix it, they have to find something, or come out and say he's injured, he's gonna be out for this or that. But the situation is we're blind. We don't know what if he's injured or not. Why didn't he play yesterday? Why didn't he come in? Is he injured? So why is he in the squad? So it's a strange situation for Luis Alberto. Immobile, I don't know. He's not even playing with Italy, so he should be fresh. So why is he have a fatigue? It's strange.
Alistair, your thought?
Yeah, it's not ideal. I think you just have to accept that throughout the course of a season you will pick up injury problems, and I wouldn't say it's a concern in that I don't think it's necessarily a problem that's come about through the training methods or the medical team at the club in the way that it's been suspected of in previous years. A number of the injuries you've mentioned have come about in matches, and there's not an awful lot you can do about that. It's just bad luck. So there is still another international break where we're coming towards. So that'll be another period of rest at least and recuperation. But yeah, like Rami said, I mean the biggest cause for concern really is just Luis Alberto, because as we've spoken at length about on this podcast, we just have no idea what's going on with him and how serious a problem it is, and also how much it's connected to his poor form this season, or whether that's just because he's not playing well. We don't know.
Again, I think this is a problem. As Inzaghi said on Saturday, Inter is a team built to fight for the Scudetto, to win the Scudetto. Lazio's not, and facing them with so many top players missing, it's not easy. So I think that's one of the reasons why Lazio collapsed after the first goal. And again, as we said often on this podcast, it would be good from Lazio to say, look, Alberto has this problem. Berisha, I had to put him in the bench because we didn't have any other option, but he's not playing if there's not a big problem we are facing. So, yeah, I think this is something we have to consider. I mean, I'm really happy to see Cataldi playing that much, because he's young, he's a Lazio fan, and you can see him every time he comes in. He's putting something extra. That, to be honest, I didn't see the last year when he was still with Lazio. I thought he was a little bit arrogant, thinking, I'm the key star of this team. And now he understands that things are not like that. So it's good to see him playing. But, yeah, let's hope that the next men step up and compensate for this injury we are facing.
Well, speaking of Cataldi, we've got a question from Cristiano Ronaldo, no less, on Twitter. So he's asked, do we think that Cataldi will start against SPAL on Sunday? Rami, what do you reckon?
I think he will. The problem is, where is he going to play? Is he going to play like against Inter as a defensive midfielder, or will he be pushed in his position instead of Parolo? I don't know. Inzaghi has a lot of options. Let's say he has a lot of options. He can play Parolo, like we said, in the defensive midfielder, and he can play Cataldi, he can play Murgia, he can play Berisha, he can play Milinkovic-Savic, he can play Lulic in the two in the midfield. So he has a lot of options. I think Cataldi will start because he played 60 minutes against Inter, so he will be fresher than Murgia, than maybe Berisha will start. Maybe Milinkovic-Savic is gonna be benched, but I don't know. I think benching Milinkovic-Savic is a big risk, because he's a kind of player that wants to feel loved, wants to feel to have a hand on his shoulder. So answering about Cataldi, I think Cataldi will start.
I think we don't have any other option at the moment there. And after seeing Cataldi playing so well, I think he deserves to start. The question is, will he start? Will he play in the Lucas Leiva position, or will it happen like in Marseille where Parolo played as Lucas Leiva and Cataldi playing in his natural position? And this brings me to another consideration. Why they didn't play like that against Inter? Why Cataldi played as the playmaker?
Do
you want to start again?
Where to start? Yeah, take a deep breath. A few things really concern me about the performance in general. But one of them was really the organization of the team. And most of all, the pressing game, because what was happening was that quite often the pressing, it didn't link up. To play an effective pressing game, all the lines of the team need to be kind of in unison about what they're trying to do. And quite often what we'd see, and Lazio lost the midfield battle pretty comprehensively yesterday. And the midfield, when they were trying to step up and put pressure on the likes of Brozovic and stop them from playing the killer passes, there was such a big gap between Lazio's midfield and defence. And I think it's you can't leave that kind of space. And as a result, João Mario, who's not played a single minute of football this season until last night, he had a very good game, being kind of the guy who was stitching together the midfield and attack for Inter. And Lazio just they can't be that naive to leave those kind of spaces available for big teams to exploit. Something that really frustrated me after the game, I was in the press conference after the match, and Inzaghi came in. He's lost his voice again, and got asked about the Lazio's problem with big teams. And something he said was, the circumstances change when you come across big teams, because you come up against guys like Handanovic, who makes great saves, and João Miranda, who makes saving tackles. And you might not face these kind of players when you're playing other teams. And I was thinking, state the obvious, why don't you? I mean, how can you not be prepared for the fact that playing a bigger team means playing a higher quality of opposition? I mean, I found that to be a bizarre answer, and it's one of the most concerning games I've had of watching an Inzaghi team, in terms of, I think, how tactically naive Lazio were and how badly prepared they were for this game. I think Inzaghi has to take a lot of responsibility for this match.
Two things about Inzaghi. First one is he's, how can I say, a player's coach. He's going to always defend his team. So you'll never see him saying, Lulic played badly because he didn't cover João Mario during the match, etc. He defended Milinkovic-Savic all the match. Same thing, Luis Alberto, and so on. He defended Casado last year, when he was bad. So, and the second thing, and this is a question, is in the past we saw Inzaghi taking a risk. Now, yesterday, Spalletti took a huge risk because, as you were saying, João Mario, not only he didn't play this season, I think it was like he didn't play since January of last year or something like that. It was a lot of time he didn't play. And Spalletti surprised Inzaghi and decided to start him. He took a risk, didn't start De Vrij. While on the other side, Inzaghi opted to play Casado, who was tired, Badel, who was pretty much injured, instead of going on Correa, who, when he came in, he changed the match for Lazio. Lazio was, again, very creative, etc. Do you think he's taking less chances, Simone Inzaghi, now? Feeling less confident, or maybe being more concerned of risking decision?
Let me say, first of all, I absolutely hate the discussion of the big teams that we can't beat big teams. We've beaten Juventus in Turin last season. You can't beat any bigger teams than that.
Yeah,
So
but that was our last win. That was the last time we beat the top 16.
Yeah, but we can beat them. We have the play. They're the same players. We can beat these kinds of teams, but we're not doing the right things. That's the problem. We're not playing well. That's the problem. We've beaten Milan before. We've beaten even Roma. We've beaten them in the cup once, and we've beaten them 3-1 in the league. So we can beat these teams, but we're not playing well. There's a problem right now in the team. We're not getting the right decisions from Inzaghi. He's not making the right decisions. So that discussion of we can't beat the big teams it really gets me annoyed because we can't. But we're not doing it because we're not playing that well right now, and the players are not playing that well.
It's definitely a problem. I mean, the Juventus game was the last time, like I say, we beaten a top 6 team. That was more than a year ago. And yes, that did come on the back of that 4-1 win over Milan and the Supercoppa win. But if you go a bit further back, in Lazio's last 26 games, I only know this because I was writing about it today, Lazio's last 26 games against top 6 teams, they've lost 18 of them, which is a shocking record, really, in these kind of matches. So it's definitely a problem. And for me, Inzaghi he's not adapting enough. You know, it's enough for him because of the quality of the players he's got and the fact that they're so drilled in this one system that he's been using for so long. It is enough to get results against lower quality teams to basically put a team out on the pitch and let them do what they know how to do. But I think you need to allow for the individual strengths of the opposition when you're playing the better quality teams and perhaps put certain measures in place to counter those. And Inzaghi, who used to be a very flexible and adaptable coach in his first season and change formations and make surprise decisions, he's not doing that anymore. It is too predictable in these big games. And I think it's very easy. You know, Lazio want to play the ball on the ground, play out from the back and play it quick, but they're coming up against teams who can do that better than them. And that's the fundamental problem. If you're playing someone at their own game, but they've got better players to do it, you need to adapt and have a plan B. It doesn't mean that Inzaghi shouldn't be sticking to his guns and sticking with his system, but it means that when it's not working, I think he needs to have another idea of how to adapt and strengthen it. Because this season, the worrying thing for me isn't just that it's been 4 defeats against the top 4 from last season. It's that each game has got worse. It's gone from 2-1 against Napoli, 2-0 Juve, 3-1 Roma, now 3-0. So it's not even that Lazio are continuing to lose games, it's that they're getting worse in these big games and losing the conviction that they can get result in them.
Yeah, and not performing in the other games as well. That's a big problem. Last season, we scored 6 against Sassuolo, we scored 6 against Chievo. We were playing well, but this season, even the games that we've won against Fiorentina, against Empoli, we're not playing that good.
I don't know. I think one of the reasons why Lazio didn't play that well is because Inzaghi didn't have the strength to risk. I mean, Caicedo and Immobile, they played well, but they played Thursday. Inter had 2 days to recover more than Lazio. And you can see Caicedo didn't play as well. And I thought, you have to start Correa. It's a risk, yes, obviously, but you cannot play the same 11 that played on Thursday, sorry. You have to take a little bit of risk. And this is something Inzaghi is not doing anymore. I mean, the only rotation we're seeing at the moment is Wallace, Ramos in defense, and one on the right side that can be Marusic, Patrick, and so on. All the other is pretty much the same team all the time. And, Milinkovic is playing all the matches. Parolo is playing all the matches. Probably if Leva would have been fit, he would have played against Inter. Is this because Inzaghi is not trusting the other players? I don't believe so. But, Inzaghi, Spalletti took the risk. He didn't play De Vrij. He played João Mario as well. I think in a long season like that, you have to do it. And I don't think it's a coincidence that against Parma, Lazio played very well, and Inzaghi made a lot of changes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, it's a good thing. It's encouraging that Lazio are still getting wins from games they're not playing well in. But obviously, like you said, Rami, they're not having these explosive wins in the same way it did last season. But I think, to be honest, at this point, Lazio are still in a very good position. Still very much in the hunt for Champions League. Milan could go above us on Wednesday, but they have to beat Genoa first, and I really don't trust this Milan team. So it's still a good position to be in. You know, the November international break, if we can be in the Champions League spots for that, we would have taken that at the start of the season, I'm pretty sure. But for me, it's more the concern with the approach to these big games. I just think that there has to be, Inzaghi has to be willing to accept that his own methods aren't going to be superior to these big teams he's playing against.
Guys, do you think that the last 20 minutes of Correa convinced Simone Inzaghi to play him? Today there was a friendly match against Primavera and Correa scored twice. I know it's not important, but even every time he played, and this season in Serie A he started only once, and I think this is the 11th match of the Serie A. I think it's time to give him a chance even in Serie A.
I think he was the best player who played against Inter in those 20 minutes. He made some very good dribbling. He got past players. He was very positive. But the other players the game was already over, so no one really helped him. But definitely he should start against SPAL, I think.
Yeah, I think that he's done more than enough to merit an inclusion. I think it's got to the point, to be honest, where Inzaghi has to find space for him in this team, and the fact that Caicedo's been doing so well has perhaps discouraged him from putting Correa in, because he would have had to drop Caicedo to do so. But yeah, he's made a good impact in the chances he's had, and you can't really ask for any more than that from a new signing. So he just looks like, I mean, what Rami said there was absolutely right, which is that he's just very positive, and he looks like he's able to produce that kind of moment of magic and that spark that's really been missing from Lazio, because last season, you know, Alberto, Milinkovic both reached double figures with their goals, as well as providing a lot of assists. But so they were generally relied upon as the players who would produce that spark. But obviously, without them performing at that level, we need somebody to step in and do it. And to be honest, recently he's looked the most likely. I'd say him and Berisha, for me, from what we've seen recently, should both be in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel the problem with Berisha is just physical condition. He's injured, or at least he's not 100% fit, and that's why he's not playing. I thought, you know, if he was fit, he would have started against Marseille. That was a very important match. And Correa, I feel there is a little bit of problem with Simone Inzaghi, in the sense that he's always a little bit, not skeptical, but doesn't want to start a newcomer immediately at the beginning of the season. He wants to train them and then put them on a little bit afterwards during the season, which, you know, makes sense. But in this situation, I think he should have been starting Correa earlier.
Yeah, it's a bit baffling to me. Like, where has this ultra cautious Inzaghi come from? You know, guy who's unwilling to experiment with tactics, even in friendly games. A guy who's unwilling to try out players or young players or new signings unless he's absolutely sure. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he was throwing in Palombi from the start, Lombardi from the start, throwing Murgia on in the Supercoppa. You know, he was one of the great things about the early months of Inzaghi's reign was that he was so brave and willing to try out new things and surprise people. And I think he lost that.
Even Ramos in the defense, he also had a risk. He got him in the team when no one even knew who he was. So he could risk these kind of players. Now he doesn't do that. He wants to play safe. He doesn't want to make any mistakes. I think that's the biggest problem.
He's been so safe this season, though. You know, I can't really think of any surprises he's made this season, any big risks he's taken. It's been the 3-5-1-1 or the 3-5-2 every single game. It's been, like you said, Vittorio, pretty much the same team, and he's really taken his time to introduce any new signings.
He didn't even want to drop Luis Alberto, even when he was not playing that well. He kept playing him.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying, I think. I mean, look, I'm still a huge fan of the guy, and I think he's still doing a good job this season because, like I said, we're in a really good position. But those are worrying signs. I'd quite like to see his kind of bravery come back again.
Yes, it's something I was thinking about. He's still a very good manager. I thought he prepared very well a couple of matches. And I don't think yesterday he lost the match. He could have been a little bit more brave, as Valem Mohamed was writing, why risk playing Badel? Maybe the old Inzaghi would have put directly Cataldi and maybe would have started Correa, or as we were saying, but Palombi started against SPAL last season. Why not start Rossi, that looks really promising, instead of Immobile that instead was looking really nervous like never before. So I want to see Inzaghi, the old Inzaghi back, the one that maybe starts with a 3-5-2 and then the next match is 4-3-3 again. As Alistair was saying, every team now knows how Lazio will play. 3-5-1-1 with Milinkovic-Savic moving around. So you got to stop those two, and it's pretty much done. I think we improve the defensive side of things. Lazio is more organized, and except in rare occasion, we don't do bad mistakes. So we are well organized there. But on the attacking side, if Milinkovic-Savic and who's playing trequartista doesn't invent something great, we are pretty much boring, and the other teams already know how we're gonna play.
Do you actually think we're better in defense?
I think we are better organized.
But we still concede the same amount of goals like last season. I think it's the same.
But we were a little bit... Well, we already played against Juventus, Napoli, Inter, Roma, Fiorentina. So we had a very tough calendar compared to last season. I think some of the goal was inevitable. But overall, I think we are playing better. And especially with Leva playing like that, with the midfield playing like that, I think there's a better coverage for Lazio defense.
Yeah, I don't think the defense has been as error prone as it was last season. Is one thing. It's not been a lot of our discussion covering the games last season was based on Rami's angry comments about terrible defending, terrible defensive errors, and I don't think there have been so many of those. I mean, obviously there was the Wallace got away with one against Fiorentina, but there's not been so many kind of avoidable goals and terrible mistakes, despite the fact that there's still goals being conceded. I don't think they're being conceded in quite as worrying a fashion as they were last year.
Patrick Bowman on Twitter saying Lombardi and Palombi was more or less forced to choose. Lack of rotation has always been there. Don't remember in detail, but there was injury and similar problems. Well, 2 years ago, Inzaghi started Lombardi, and who else? Was it Kishna against Atalanta, I think? And that was due to the fact that Keita said he was injured, something like that. And I don't remember someone else. Maybe Kishna wasn't still with the team. I don't remember. So that's why Lombardi started. That's true. But after that match, Inzaghi wasn't scared to put Lombardi in every occasion he had. And Lombardi always played well. Against SPAL, I think Immobile wasn't fit. And Palombi started. But again, he said on Saturday that Casado and Immobile weren't 100% fit. Badel wasn't fit. We saw it. So I think this season he has more option. As well, let's not forget Correa, for example. People are saying, yeah, we sold Felipe Anderson, but Felipe Anderson last year didn't play till December because he was injured. So we are having more option now. I don't know if Inzaghi get a little bit confused of having too many options, but especially after the summer Rossi had, I was expecting to see Rossi play a little bit more than zero.
Yeah, we do have a lot of options. We have a lot of players that still didn't really get into any games. Like Lukaku, he still hasn't played a single minute. Durmizi, after his injury, he still didn't play that much. Murja, let's not forget Murja he hasn't played that much. He has a lot of players, but it seems like he doesn't know what to do with them all. He can't find the mix of the starting 11, the mix of the good players. He kept playing the same team like last season because he thought that they were good and they could play together. But Milinkovic-Savic is not playing well. Luis Alberto is not playing well. So he doesn't know what to do right now with the other players.
I think we're getting to a turning point with that, though. I'd like to think so. I think early on in the season, it made sense, with the opening two games being against Napoli and Juventus. It made sense for Inzaghi to stick with a team he knew and trusted, and that knew the way that Lazio liked to play the game. Obviously, it didn't pay off, but I can understand his thinking in those moments. But yeah, now we're into November, and it's time for these players who are not getting opportunities to be given them, because, like you said, Rami, it's not like they're not getting on the pitch because the guys above them are playing so phenomenally well. Quite the opposite. So yeah, there are still a few kind of untouchable guys in the squad. Acerbi's quickly become one. Radu and Lulic on the left have on the whole been pretty good throughout the season, and Immobile up front, obviously. So there are a few in the team who are still playing more or less every game. But yeah, I think the having more options is obviously a good thing, but you just need to see more of them.
Yeah, Inzaghi always says when he's talking about Acerbi that Felipe Luis is the only option to play there. I'm not 100% convinced. I would try different solution to give a rest to Acerbi, because as you were saying, Acerbi, Radu and Lulic, they're playing a lot, and I'm concerned that they could arrive in May that they are knackered. The other thing, before people start writing, I still think Inzaghi is very good. Maybe we have been a little bit harsh. I think he's still a great manager. Obviously, he's human, He can make mistakes. As Spalletti was very good to start Jose Mario, he still have a lot of problems in dealing with players in the locker room, as he did with Roma. So, every manager has his problem. And Inzaghi is young, so he needs to improve. I hope this is the type of match that changes a lot of things, and Inzaghi finally drops players that are considered untouchable to put the best starting 11 possible from next Sunday. They SPAL. It's a very important match, and Lazio need to win it.
Yeah, and SPAL are a very well coached team. I was very surprised by their result on the weekend. No one gets hammered by Frosinone. I have no idea what happened there. But, they obviously came to Rome a couple of weeks ago and beat Roma and started the season very well. So they're not going to be an easy team to break down. In Petagna, they've got a striker who's a massive physical presence. Thankfully, he hardly scores any goals. But, yeah, they're a decent team, and I think the Lazio are going to have their creative players at their best to actually break this team down, and nothing would make me happier than a comfortable win after what's just happened.
Yeah, it's a huge game now after the Inter game. We have to win that game. I'd love to have a good performance as well, but honestly, I just we have to get the 3 points. We have to continue adding points to stay close in the top four. It's not going to be an easy game. SPAL are not an easy game. Losing to Frosinone at home 3-0, of course, after beating Roma. So the curse of beating Roma. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy team to beat.
No, and I agree with what Simone Inzaghi said in the past. This Serie A, it's very competitive. I think it's true when he says that the level of the small team have increased. And you can see it with SPAL. SPAL is a very well-organized team and is able to beat Roma away and then lose to Frosinone. And when we played against Frosinone, it was tough. Let's not forget that Juventus struggled with Frosinone as well. And Chievo was nearly able to draw with Juventus at the beginning of the season. So it's a very difficult season. And in a certain way, I believe that a lot of big teams will lose points with weaker team. And so having Lazio winning all those matches against weaker team is still very positive for the Champions League competition. But I think that at the moment, or in general, Juve, Napoli, and Inter, are built better than Lazio, a team that should be fighting for the Scudetto. And so, I think Lazio is a step back of these three teams. Roma, I think it's somewhere in between, and Milan is a little bit lower Lazio. So I think the last spot for the Champions League is going to be between these three teams. So Lazio have to fight back and be able to win every match against the small teams.
Do you think that we can go a whole season playing like this, not performing well, and have success at the end?
Well, I don't believe that
No.
Milinkovic-Savic can play all season like that and pretend to start all matches. But I saw Correa, and he can really change the team. And I still believe that one between Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto will step up. But Correa and Berisha, they're really promising. I think if they start playing, Lazio will have a change of rhythm.
So you think that the only problem right now with us is that the individual players are not informed, and when they get informed, the whole team will perform like we did last season?
Lazio is very well organized. I don't think they struggled that much. They weren't. If you check in the biggest matches, we weren't very dangerous, and this is because we didn't have Luis Alberto Milinkovic-Savic making the difference. If you give a chance to Correa and Berisha, I think that dangerous point Lazio had last season will be back, hopefully. Alistair, you agree with me, right?
Well, I think there's certainly enough options in the squad for Inzaghi to keep things fresh and keep getting results in these games. That it's worth remembering. Like I think you're right, Vittorio, that it's probably going to end up being a three-way fight for fourth spot with Roma and Milan by the looks of things. And the one advantage that we've already got over those teams is that we're not dropping points against stupid teams. So if Lazio can keep that up, I can't emphasize enough how huge that is in terms of the battle for Champions League qualification. Roma are so unpredictable, and obviously they also have the Champions League to think about. While Milan really don't convince me an awful lot. They've been doing okay, but I think they'll continue to drop points in matches. Even against Sampdoria over the weekend, they could easily have dropped a couple of points in that game. So if we can keep finding ways to win these games, that's huge. But I do feel like it's a defeat to SPAL away from people thinking it's the apocalypse, which is not necessarily. But there still needs to Inzaghi still needs to find the answer of getting this team to tick, because it's a relief to see us in this position. And I think Rami's right in terms of the performances. It's perhaps a surprise to be in this position considering the way that Lazio played for most of the season. But the fact is that this team still has another gear to go into. So it's got to happen sooner or later. I don't think there's any chance, like you asked, Rami, of Lazio going the whole season of playing this badly. So it's got to happen at some point.
And I think of the big teams, Lazio's the only one who has, as you were saying, this gear that can change things. Because if you consider all the other teams, all the top players already have performed. I still think Berisha and Correa still can change pace to this team, while we all see all the talents of Juventus, Milan with Higuain, Inter, etc., Roma as well. So I think the only team that can really change pace is Lazio.
Vittorio, Inter started the season very badly. Let's not forget, and they started after the win against Tottenham in the Champions League. Then they started winning every game in the league. So they started badly as well. But the Tottenham game was the difference, the turning point. So I hope it does happen to us. I thought Marseille, the last game was our turning point to continue winning and to continue. But that's why I was very surprised with the Inter game and performance.
I agree with you, but I thought Caicedo and Mobile were, especially Caicedo, he was too tired to replicate the match he had against Marsiglia. So that's why I thought, Correa could change things. But, maybe it's a lesson Inzaghi learned.
Yeah.
Rami, your last thought before we wrap it up?
Well, hopefully we're feeling better than last night after the podcast. And hopefully we're going to win on Sunday against SPAL.
Alistair?
Yeah. Well, I echo that. Obviously, I'll be going along on Sunday as well. Hopefully the weather has improved. That would be nice. I don't think Lazio are a team that really enjoys playing in a storm by the looks of things, so hopefully things have cleared up a little bit by then.
To wrap it up, I hope Cataldo will start finally. His first match of the season starting. I think he deserves after his performance. And I hope this is the match that change a little bit things. Inzaghi finally give it a go and risk those players that haven't played that much. I'm thinking of Correa, but eventually give a couple of minutes even to Rossi in the second half, especially seeing how he's training hard, how he's performing. But I think winning is really important for the club. And Europe League things are going fine. Now Lazio has to focus a little bit more in the Serie A, and Inzaghi has to see if he can change a little bit things. Said this, thank you guys for joining me. Alistair, I can confirm you can be back to the show if you want. Big risk for you this week. Rami, thanks for joining us, and thanks to all our patrons who support us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, and please, if you like it, review it. Again, we are on Spreaker. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. And again, not the best starting of the week, but things will get better, and hopefully Sunday we're gonna see a different Lazio. Thanks, Rami, for joining us. Thanks, Alistair, and have a nice week. We are gonna talk again next Sunday. Thank you, guys, and Forza Lazio.
Cheers.
Come on, you eagles, there's no time to fear. Up there's an angel watching